I'm being joined now by Ahmed Bakheit with ADAAM Logistics. We're talking transportation logistics, the produce industry, the challenges that our industry are facing. Not to start with doom and gloom, but Ahmed, what are you watching most closely right now as far as pressures and changes in transportation logistics within the produce industry?
It's going to be 100% carrier compliance. Like in the dry van game, like we're looking out for theft. In the reefer game, we're looking out for broken relationships with the producers, with growers and buyers. And how you break those relationships is with faulty insurance. If something goes bad, it's not the fact that it goes bad. It's like, it's who pays for it at the end of the day. So carrier compliance, carrier insurance is the name of the game right now. Like everybody, either you're hiring a carrier sales representative or you're a compliance representative. At least all the growing brokerages I know. There's just, there are people that are going heavy in sales. They're doubling down on their sales, but what I see coming is like, there's going to be a dichotomy of people who are like pushing sales and then reducing their service, quality, and then there are people who are going to double down on their service quality and then slowly grow their sales afterwards. So you're going to see like a bunch of different companies that are, believing in two different schools of thought, kind of buying it out in that space.
So a lot of what I hear about is coverage, right? So the availability ratio, load to driver availability ratio. We were talking about sales. I mean, in my mind, there's a driver availability issue. I wouldn't think, the outside looking in, my day job is not transportation. I wouldn't think that it would be a hard sell.
There's not a driver shortage. There is a quality of life shortage, and for drivers, it's not that there are not a lot of drivers. There are just not a lot of drivers who are getting paid. And then, comparing, trucks to loads, like our qualified trucks to loads is a completely different game, because a lot of these guys who might be posting up, who might be looking for freight, don't have the qualifications to move the freight that they're looking to get, right? And then what ends up happening is, again, broken relationships. Something might go bad, something might happen, and then you might be, talking to somebody you used to know. So, and at that point, that's where, carrier compliance and carrier assurance comes in. It's at this point, we're not talking about trucks, because there's no truck shortage. It's about how well you pay your drivers, because the drivers are there if you're willing to pay them. And again, a lot of people have a problem with that, but, high inflation has affected every sector of our industry. And so, it only makes sense that we are where we are.
So cost inputs, inflation, when I think transportation, I'd be remiss not to focus somewhat on fuel costs, right? So fuel costs are a big part of transportation costs, are a big input, one of the major inputs in transportation costs. Living in Texas, I see fuel prices stabilizing. I don't really track what's happening throughout the rest of the country. Are we following suit everywhere else? Is it, I think fuel surcharges, for example, were a mechanism to sort of adjust and pass those costs along. Frankly, I think it's a double-edged sword. Whereas, it makes carriers whole, but at the same time, I think perhaps the fluctuations are more severe, right? So do you have any thoughts on fuel prices right now, and what do you see coming down the road?
I mean, I would say that I don't want to go down that route, as in, because and I hate to say this, but what somebody else eats doesn't make me shit, right? So what that means is that I'm not a carrier, I'm a broker. Those fuel costs are dependent on the carrier. They're the ones who set up, because the fuel costs depend greatly depending on where you are. But if you're over the road and you're filling up in multiple different states, it doesn't really matter to you now, does it? So, I mean, I would say that it's just irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, because we always deal with all-in costs, and people who are looking for fuel surcharge are usually people who are going into subjects that they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
because again,
so I see it as like an opportunity to grab margin in some cases, and in some cases, I think it's probably justifiably a way to be made whole from a cost perspective. So I think that's it's not going away, right? It's something that's been presented, and it's pretty mainstream now. And so,
but when it comes down to like actually, like talking about how it affects the carriers, we would have to speak to each carrier, and each carrier is different. Each shipment is different. But and what that means is, like, fuel costs in Texas might really affect somebody in a positive way if they're based out of Texas. And even if the same person down the street who lives, or works in the same office building as them even, they could be dealing with something completely separate because the shipments that they're running are completely different. They could be running, refrigerated shipments compared to dry bag shipments. Cost of fuel is going to be not just for the truck, but for the trailer as well. So, I mean, it just depends on who you're talking to and where they're filling up at. Overall, around the nation, I'm not seeing anybody hurting for fuel at the moment. I'm
Really?
just not. And if they are, like, I would challenge them, to look at their operation and see what they're, what they're actually doing with their overhead.
Interesting. Next big thing. What keeps you up at night, or what? I mean, is it AI? Is it autonomous vehicles? Is it what? I mean, what's kind of your?
It's boots on ground. It's war, because that affects our nation. That affects our trucking industry. Right now, when trucking gets bad, people leave and they go into construction. Right? When trucking gets good, they leave construction. They leave lumber. They leave whatever they're doing, and they come into over the road trucking. What I'm scared of is a war happening, and all of the units that are deploying and everybody who is moving out needs transportation, which is going to siphon a lot of that capacity out of the market. So that's my biggest fear, is just war. The socio-political climate is just not conducive to, projecting out, accurate numbers. So I would just say combat, like real life combat, like that's what keeps me up at night. And it's not because
it's a supply chain.
Yeah. And it's
a strain on the supply chain.
Yeah. It's just a huge strain. And it's going to, from my perspective, it's not something that is 10 years away, 20 years away. This is like a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out kind of deal. Something that's already happening at the moment. And I don't think that Kuwait is ready for that. I don't think Croatia is ready for that. I don't think our allies are ready for something like that, because we're going to be shifting that strain when we ship out from here onto them to manage our supply chain when we're in their theaters of operation.
Wow. That's definitely something to study up on our side. So very interesting. Look, we're just getting started this week. Is this your first time at this event?
Yeah. I'm like, live down the street and I saw it online. I was like, I'm going.
Nice. Well, our first year as well, although we've been to many trade shows. Very happy to be here. It's the weather's great. It's a great venue. You can't go wrong here. So happy to be here. Happy to have met today. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll be seeing you down the road.
My man, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.